So we're going to talk about Max Payne, it's OpEx. So yeah, we'll see how things play out. You know, we have really a very interesting setup here. I'm not exactly sure how things play out, but I think you're going to see some, like we saw with the consumer staples, healthcare. I think you're going to see some little pockets of really fun, crazy rotation type stuff overnight. This is important here. In China, they reported that the imports basically, they're having an issue in terms of supply, right? Supply. They thought it would be 10%, but as it was a negative number, the exports were still the same. Now, the reason why I point this out to you is because what do they import? I think they're having a lot of problems in terms of this section right here. Fertilizer, they're having problems with parts, getting stuff in as well. You know, it's really interesting, minerals, machinery. So the blowback, I think, with what's going on with Russia definitely has dramatic impact and importance with China. And I think that they're scrambling right now. And it's going to be fascinating to see how they move forward from this whole situation. Just saying, put it out there, think about it, etc. All right, so we have some numbers out of the UK in terms of PPI, hotter than expected. And then we have ours, of course, PPI coming out this morning. We had the CPI yesterday. Oh my God, it was expected. And this guy, once again, the market's missing the bigger picture here. And the question is going to be, even Gunlock came out. I mean, this really surprised me. I'll be honest with you. It says that inflation is peaking. Sorry, dude. I'm not buying it. I'm just saying, not buying it. Anyways, see how things play out. Then we have EIA. There was a build yesterday, a little bit larger, well, a lot larger than expected, as opposed to a draw. So, you know, this is almost like economists. This is a random walk theory getting this right in terms of the changes. So anyways, we move forward. All right, today, Delta, get a little bit of a tailwind for the airlines. I'm in Alaska Air and I'm in Delta. I was in JetBlue, but I got out too soon. Whatever. Bed Bath & Beyond came out kind of as expected. The market expected bad numbers. Let's see if it can move forward from there. And then we have tomorrow pre-market's going to be really fascinating, right? JP Morgan, really unusual. Jamie came out very quickly. They did a 30 billion stock buyback. They did miss. Obviously, a lot of it, their earnings was a function of their trading desks, and we kind of knew that was going to be the case. BlackRock also missed on the revenue side. So, and then Delta beat. I don't know how high the bar is right now, but no, anyways, you get the idea with that. So miss, but they're guiding a little bit happier. All right, so Twins has kind of been talking about this now. The B of A, their survey came out and it was the lowest on record in terms of asset managers, and we'll discuss that in a little bit as well. So Treasury index drawdown. I mean, it's a record. I don't know what this means, but you know, I know there's a lot of cash, but what motive? You know, if all of these asset managers, and they have a 833 billion under management. They do this every month, the B of A. It's a fun thing. So basically 71% of survey respondents were pessimistic. So it's the largest ever since it started in the 90s. You know, I don't know where we go from here. What's even more interesting is with this pessimism, I'm a little bit surprised by this. They only have 5.5% cash. I thought it would be higher, to be honest with you, but I don't know. You know, the allocation, they did increase to commodities, right? And that's a record level as well. So, you know, we continue to see an evolution of asset managers and institutions, well, more asset managers, I would say, where they put the money to work, right? And this is what it looks like for you. Now you would say, well, normally this would be, you know, a contrarian type trade, right? I don't know. I mean, the reality is, and I continue to say this, until institutions and asset managers want to have the capacity to buy and hold this market, I don't think we go anywhere. I think we're in a massive range. You're going to see, like I say, pockets of strength that's going to have follow through and continuation. But it's all about sustainability and week longs, whether it's, when it's institutions, just is not how this market can move forward. I'm just saying it just doesn't work that way, right? Overseas, South China Morning Post, what are they talking about? No, not a lot. So the question's going to be about the zero COVID. Look, the reality is what's going on in China is a function of they don't use the mRNA vaccine. It's that simple, right? Now, on the other side is this is a highly contagious variant, and guess what? You can get it more than one time. So it's like me, I wear masks. I wear my KN95 masks, and off I go. And I'm happy, and that's my choice. And you can do whatever you want to do. I just think that, Philadelphia is instituting the mask mandate, right? I mean, look, this is the new norm. So we'll see how it ebbs and flows. But I think everybody's pretty comfortable with the fact that, we're doing a good job in terms of fatalities. How's that sound? Okay. Yeah, we know. Okay. Sued by investor for delaying disclosure. So there was news out in terms of China on the EV side that got Li, Xpeng, and Neo popping. And that was a function that in terms of the amount, how many you can buy, right? So China has a lot to do. They're hearing a sucking sound. I mean, I wouldn't want to be the central bank right now. All right, this guy is a treasure. If you don't know who Jeremy Siegel is, please Google him. I mean, he's just wonderful. Now, we've talked about this, and this is true. There's a long way to go to slow inflation. And mad shout out to my friend Citrini. Look, the reality is what they've priced in and what they're actually going to do is probably not even close. So here's 4%. This was over 5%. In these different cycles, this was 5%, a little 5.25%. This was 6.5%. So I don't think the market's pricing correctly what the Fed's going to do. And as a result of that, it's going to be interesting, right? All right, what do we got? Wow. Really taking a walk on the wild side there, girlfriend. Yeah, I don't, this is why I don't understand these people are allowed to talk. This is ridiculous. Seriously, this is what you're saying it to us. It's their main focus. Whatever. Inflation reports keep Feds on track for help. I want shock and awe. I want 1%. Do it. If you're really that concerned, do it. Look, the gold is telling us, crude's telling us, the commodities telling us they don't buy it. You're way behind the curve. Shock and awe. Let's do it. Okay? That's what we want. Just shock and awe. Right? Scrambles for cover from the West financial weapons. Yeah, you better be afraid because they're coming after you. I think that China got the wake-up call with the, look, whether you like the duty or don't like the duty, I don't give a shit. I really don't care, okay? You have to give credit to Biden in his ability capacity to unify against Russia. Okay, China says, this is what it looks like for us too if there's something happens. So, hey, God bless. That's all I have to say. All right, so $750 million to the Ukraine. Okay, Russia's economy. We'll have to see what the PPI looks like. Market's pulling back a little bit, I think, in anticipation of that. Look, for me, yesterday was like, oh my God, what the hell? But then again, that's what happens, right? When the market gaps up, it's really hard to sustain it. Didn't sustain it. Now we have to see. I don't think we go anywhere, to be honest with you. I know intraday, it's a technician's market, right? All right. Let's take a look. What the Wall Street Journal? You know, this is very sad. Thoughts and prayers, right? Russia oil industry. Yeah. Well, you know, all those little, you know, they're running out of space to stockpile their oil. Good luck. Right. All right, so we did have some interesting stuff happen overnight. Again, we still have some more of this Party City insider buying. I'm not sure what the hell's going on here. It's a 10%, it's the same person, a 10% owner. They continue to accumulate down here. So I found that was pretty interesting, right? And then you can see here, right, Google, right? Got some sales going on. Some of this was a stock option. And then you can see, you know, it's going to be, you know, the narrative, divvies, stock buybacks, beat and exceed and guide higher. That's the narrative for this earnings cycle, right? Here we go. So we saw a pullback in XLV, right? Which I'll be honest with you, didn't bother me at all. XLP was up. I mean, I just don't see how this can't continue to see money flows coming in. As we've, I mean, high beta PE tech, how can you really clearly buy this stuff unless it's a valuation trade? And then once again, if you're a week long, it's not sustainable, right? Well, bear market, bear market, bear market, yada, yada, yada. Flow, let's see what happened here at the end of the day. We had our IWM fund come in again, buying puts. In May, these are hedges that have been coming in throughout the day. They came in. Which is kind of interesting. Macy's got a lot of put sweeps as well. And here's our friend IWM May 187. You can see how, you know, millions and millions and millions. This was kind of interesting, this QQQ. This is my friend. I like to follow this person. I'm already in SQQQ, so I didn't follow this, but you can see. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens with the PPI. You know, it's just such a tough headwind for this market. And how's that going to change anytime soon? It's not, right? And you layer on midterm elections. Midterm elections is only 3 months that the market does well. April, November, December, cyclically, that's it. When it comes to midterm elections, that's what it looks like. So you pile that on top of quantitative tightening, all this stuff, unknown, uncertainty, you get a sloppy, choppy market, right? NVIDIA, now that doesn't mean that in November, December that the market can't rip, and basically instead of having double digits down, it can be single digits, but I mean, I'm just saying, right, individual sectors, but you know, semis look like, really bad, and you know, Spartan's been going over that. I mean, it's just, I mean, yeah, AMD broke support. AMD looks the worst now. And we talked about semis yesterday. It's just so hard when you don't have certain sectors for the market to go higher, right? Hershey's and NVIDIA, it's that. I like this JB Hunt. I'm going to be interested to see what South Beach says about this. This was an upgrade from Deutsche Bank. You know, the transports is such an important part. Okay, and that's why I look at it, and you know, as does South Beach, and you know that I found very interesting, to be honest with you. Okay, and then now Booz Allen is a 74% dude on the upgrade, but it only gives you 3.6% return. So I mean, okay, not doing it. All right, so Swaggy stocks. What is maximum pain? For those of you unfamiliar, max pain basically is the price where the most amount of options in terms of puts and calls lose the most amount of money. So for tomorrow, it's on the SPY 447. I thought that was really interesting. Okay, so let's take a look at Amazon just for shits and giggles, just so we can have that 31.55, right? So this is kind of interesting. So this is saying that we could have a relief rally coming for tomorrow for OPEX, but I don't know. It's really hard, right? So just let's also see what Tesla looks like. So Tesla, believe it or not, 990, so almost there. Okay. All right, so let's take a peek here. Let's go to the commodities. We're going to do commodities right now. I found this really interesting. So this is the 10-year, what's going on here. And, you know, you can see in terms of asset managers, 50-50, leveraged money is long, which is really surprising. This is why I think that this is, even though we're seeing these drawdowns, there's a lot of stuff going on that doesn't make sense to me. So uses and meses were short and other reportables are short. Now I wanted to look at natural gas as well. Now this really, really, okay, surprised me. This is the 4 largest holding of the 10-year. This is not a lot. So this is, once again, this is really interesting as to how short this market is on the 10-year. Like I say, this really doesn't make sense to me. This is natural gas positioning. This is basically telling us, all right, hedgers are always going to be short, right? But speculators aren't that long. And I find that really fascinating on natural gas on the futures side. I just thought that was interesting. All right, here's bonds, yield curves, you know, steepening a little. It continues to steepen as opposed to flatten, which, you know, people like, right? It's better for the banks, right? When the quadrant, no surprises there. 2.5 continues, comes down. We're at a key pivot right here on the monthly on the flattening right now. So basically the 2.5 was flattening. Now it's starting to steepen. So once again, the Fed can do things to make the yield curve steepen. And I think they are. That's exactly what's going on right now, right? So here's the 5-10, same narrative, right? Instead of flattening, it's steepening, right? Everybody loves the steepening yield curve. 5.30, same thing, pulling back, yada, yada. Here's the 10 in the upper quadrant. This is really interesting. So what would probably make the most sense, somewhere along the line, they basically, you know, and it, you know, it may be that that's what they're doing is they're running off some of the longer dated assets and not the shorter end. I don't know. All I know is that something's going on with the Fed and the Fed is doing it in terms of the yield curve. That's all I know, okay? 10-year, this is the Chinese. We know that they have to weaken rate. It's just, I don't even know what to begin. Once again, I don't know if the Bundesbank is going to allow this to go much higher, but it should actually be in this quadrant right here. Now, should and will are two different things, right? All right. Dollar, you know, dollar's been going up, yada, yada, yada. 100. This is the one that interests me is the Chinese yuan. Slowly, they are weakening it. And you can see here with the Bitcoin, oh my goodness, okay, have fun. Now, what's really interesting is, guys, gals, it hasn't really gone anywhere. I mean, we're consolidating. The question is, well, you know, the question is this a bear flag? That's the question, right? I don't know. Bitcoin's against the NASDAQ. This is really interesting too. I thought this would break out. It's consolidative. So they're both kind of weakening. Well, the Bitcoin's weakening more obviously than the NASDAQ, but it's really fascinating. Bitcoin's starting to weaken more and we'll see if it starts to head down. Normally I would say that would be bullish, but right now it looks bearish. Ethereum is holding up better than Bitcoin, which would make sense. Commodities, let's talk. Okay. So natural gas continues to go higher. I showed you the futures, which is, you know, I just think people are getting this wrong on natural gas and we'll continue to see it squeeze higher. I think natural gas is what we're seeing, what happened with oil when oil was in the 60s, 70s. Okay, and that they just couldn't, they didn't get it right and it kept going higher, higher. I'd probably say in terms of natural gas, we're probably maybe in the second inning, maybe third inning at the most in this rally that we're seeing right now. In my head, I told you where I think we're going, and we'll talk about that in a sec. Across the board here, interesting stuff going on. Lumber's all over the place, but I mean, I want to talk about silver, and I was doing a little bit of a deep dive on silver. And I also wanted to show this to you. I thought that was pretty fascinating. So this is an ad, someone's, I mean, look, this is what it looks like in terms of going back in time, where we should be in this commodity super cycle, okay? And here's where we are versus where we'll probably end up. And the narrative is that this, I know this is 2045, but anyways, the reality is more than likely that we will be getting into mid double digits for years to come. So this is why you will get pullbacks, right? And we've talked about this, but the reality still is because of the decoupling globally, until the US and a lot of these countries can basically offset some of the minerals, the rare earth stuff, it's going to take years and years, probably decades, right? And it's a lot of this, don't forget, is the process of evolving into a cleaner energy as well, right? I mean, in terms of what's used to create. I mean, don't forget, like with nuclear, if we're increasing nuclear globally power plants, guess what? Those rods, they're made out of silver, right? You got uranium, everybody focuses on uranium, but the reality is that silver will be in demand because of a lot of the things going on in terms of EVs, all this stuff. So, it's a very complex narrative, and I think that people are very short-sighted. And that's why this will probably be 10 plus years, I'm thinking. And in my head, that's what I'm prepared for. All right, so natural gas breaking out. We're still in boil. We got, some natural gas names on. There will be, I think we're probably a couple weeks away still from the refiners starting to kick in again, okay? As this, the price sticks, it's about stickiness, okay? And they say, oh, the balance sheet. Look, analysts are notoriously wrong about figuring this stuff out in terms of the impact, and it probably will be an earnings cycle before we start to see this. But you can see here that the physical continues to outperform, like CTRA, which is a natural gas name, right? Boyle, this is a divergence I'm a little bit concerned about. This is a red flag, all right? So you should be down to 1/4 to 1/8 of a position in Boyle, for those of you who are following me. And it's simply because until we break this out, this high right here, we're in the upper quadrant, right? So we have to be aware of that. EQNO, this is a nat gas. This is the Norwegian one. I love this company. This is going a lot higher, friends. They are going to benefit so much from this. Mid 40s soon, very soon. I have a 45-50 spread on for July. I think that will max out. I really do. GLNG trying to put next leg up. Cost is another one. I'm a little disappointed in this, but it is holding this pivot from last month's high. So I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt right now, but I'm going to have a stop there. Next is another one. This is holding up okay. So a lot of these are consolidating in the upper quadrant, which is bullish. Now, the one that's a little bit disappointing is this DLNG, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet. TEL is holding up fine in the upper quadrant. So all of these, we'll see when the money starts to rotate. All right, so as you can see here, crude against natural gas. And I think we get down here. So we still have ways to go, but we're probably 2/3 of the way in this trade right now, FYI. Okay, all right. Here you see crude, still holding up fine. I'm going to put a tight stop on the crude and on my USO trade. And there's a reason why, is because I think we're range bound here, and I don't like, we're kind of not going as high as I'd like us to go. I would prefer us up here, and we're not. So I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to put a stop on that. Gush is trying to break out here, which is really fascinating. Okay, so we'll see how that plays out. There's a lot of divergences going on right now. XLE should pop the top. If it, I mean, the positive side about this is that it did come back inside. You can see the Bollinger. And this can ride around the Bollinger for quite some time, right? So you would expect that. XLE USO. So once again, the refiners are losing against the physical. Let's see if that switches out. Chevron still looks fine, right? Chevron, ExxonMobil. Chevron is still the one you want to be in versus ExxonMobil. But in and of itself, it looks fine. Here's Oxy looking fine. Like I say, everything's coordinating, consolidating in the upper quadrant, which is crazy ass bullish, right? So here's Chevron against Oxy. You know, it's interesting. I think Chevron's going to start up before. I'm not sure yet, but here's where we are. And I think it's kind of interesting. Here's OIH against XLE, right? Consolidative, sideways consolidation. OIH is holding up really well, right? Gold crude. Gold is holding up well, but I'm not exactly sure where we go with this right now. Here's gold. And the reason why I'm spending a lot of time on this, because these are important inflationary indicators right now, gold in particular. And I know that people say, yeah, look, everybody has their own opinion. The fact that central banks buy gold and that third world countries who don't have the capacity to buy other stuff, guess what? People buy gold, okay? India, enough said, right? So it is used as an investment hedge. I think we're rounding here. I think we're gonna go higher. I'm seeing some really nice money coming in to silver, gold, you know, we'll just see how it plays out. Right? But like I say, gold is not for the United States. It's outside the United States, right? In terms of the capacity for people where to put their money, right? As a hedge against inflation. Guess what? Since the beginning of time, it's been gold, right? It's not going to be cryptos, right? Gold, lumber. This is really interesting. Let's see how this plays out. I really thought that we'd see more of a bounce in lumber, but I'm wrong so far on that one. GLD, GDX. So,
all right, Beth, I'm ready to pop on here.
All right, my friends.
All right, guys, what's going on? Morning. If you guys are new to chat, make sure to click that Discord link that's emailed to you. That will give you access to all the alert sections, et cetera, all the paid member sections. Once you guys do come into the Discord, this is what it's going to quickly look like. I'm going to go over the new to chat information after we do close down the YouTube stream, but very quickly go to the disclaimer, give that a read, and then go to the new to chat information section, scroll to the top and read it from the top down. Again, I'll go through this in detail once we do close on that YouTube stream. All right, guys, pre-market tickers on watch. What do we got going on today, guys? A couple different things: Tesla, Epam, Nvidia, Delta, NSTG, BCTX. So Tesla, Epam, Nvidia gapping with the market, now gapping down a little bit. Delta earnings miss, EPS and rev beat, year-over-year growth 125.3%, Q2 guidance raised, stocks gapping up. NSTG, the shares are trading lower after the company cut its Q1 product and service revenue guidance. And then BCTX, Bria Cell receives FDA fast track approval for targeted breast cancer, I believe it was. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint today. And guys, just before I start, we do have the free Discord, so if you guys want to do pop in. And yesterday we did get a random guy just trying to add people and asking for like Bitcoin and stuff, trying to spoof me or pretend he was me. We'll never ask you for anything. We'll never ask you for payments or Discord. We'll never ask you for especially crypto. Just be smart, be logical, but we caught it pretty quick. So, but yeah, going forward, just so you guys know or are aware, right? Just to be careful. And I typically don't direct message any of the members first ever, unless there's some problem that I need to address, but I'll never reach out to you asking for anything. Anyways, let's take a look at what we got going on today, guys. A couple different things. Tesla, EPAM, first two names that we're looking at today. So Tesla gapping down now, still range bound, stuck in the same range as last day, essentially. We got the same levels. So 990.28 pivot level. This level is able to hold. I guess it's a different pivot because we use 1003, but 990.28 pivot level is able to hold. We got room towards 1003 on the upside at 1022.19. Unable to hold 977.23 to the 962.43 level will be tested. Pretty much stuck within the last couple day range at the moment. It is, when we do look at the daily chart, still testing that 50 EMA, or still holding about the 50 EMA and the short-term EMA resistance. So that's a little range that we're stuck within there. Not a terrible place to be. That 50 EMA obviously acts as large support. So we got to be aware and watch that area. the 963 level or 962.43. I guess we can have it here. We'll see whether or not that level holds. I'm going to be leaning on the bullish side of Tesla today, looking for a hold of that pivot and a push back to the upside today. We'll see what happens there, but I do think, because it's holding about the 50, man, it's a strong level and it does tend to stay intact. Epam, not really gapping too much at the moment, but I do like to trade this name intraday just because it's got a lot of range. So let's take a look at what we got room to today. Okay, that's that. That's that. We'll get a lower end level there. So bullish consolidation on the daily, been holding the short-term EMA support. Looks like it wants to retest the 50 EMA in the short term on the upside. That's the way I see it, at least. Pivot to the upside today, 301.33 levels able to be reclaimed. You got room towards 312.41. That level breaks. 320.301 will be tested. Unable to hold, we look for pullback towards 291.38 to 286.08. That level breaks. 270.11 on the downside will be tested. Overall on Epam, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today. Looking for a continuation push higher if that pivot point is able to hold. So pivot point able to be reclaimed, I should say. We look for a continuation push higher. One thing I'd be looking for in the short term would be a test of this little flag downtrend here. Get back above that. That should be able to get a nice little push to the upside. And you can also draw the channel right off the lows as well. You can see where it's been trading within that channel in the short term. Anywho, that is Tesla. That is Epam. Let's take a look at the next two. Let me just take a screenshot of these. Whoa. A little bit closer here. There you go. Tesla and Epam. All right, next two guys that we're looking at today. The video, Delta. So in the video, we're going to take a quick look at the daily as well. Semiconductors, as you guys know, they look pretty terrible lately. It was extended to the downside yesterday to fill that extension gap. Looks like we're going to be testing that bottom end range today. The chart is at where in the pre-market? Okay, 216. So actually a little bit of a gap up today, about a point. Whoa, we need this range to be exact. There you go. 256. That one's up there. Okay. I'm gonna go on the hourly as well, real quick. Get rid of one level. There you go. All right, 216.80 pivot to the downside today. Levels able to be reclaimed towards 219.96 to 226.01. Unable to hold, we look for continuation towards 214.35 to 211.53. If that level does break, 208.67 will be tested on the downside. Overall on NVIDIA, going to be leaning bearish. Looking for continuation lower today if the pivot point is unable to hold. Levels unable to hold, I would expect continuation to the downside. Simply put. All right, let's take a look at Delta. We're getting a nice little gap up here. 41 a share. Solid earnings, raised guidance, revenue was up 100%, 125% year over year. I thought was quite impressive. All right, let's take a look at this thing today. Obviously, on the daily, you can see that downtrend broken, EMA support reclaimed. Actually, all the EMA support reclaims. Looks pretty good for continuation, in my opinion. Okay, so we're gonna have to do this. All right, 40.29 pivot level holds, 41.38 to 42.56 will be tested. Unable to hold the pivot, we look for a pullback towards 39.11. If that level breaks, 38.10 will be tested on the downside. Overall on Delta, going to be leaning bullish, looking for a continuation push to the upside today if that pivot point is able to hold. So that is NVIDIA and that is Delta. Right, NSTG and VCTX. Take a look at these two here. So gapping down. All right, let's get this level here. We're at what, 2086. All right, let's get some major support levels on. I need to go that low. Let's take a look at this NSTG intraday. 16 below that, okay. So 23.01 pivot to the downside today. This level was able to be reclaimed. We got room back towards 26.43 to 29.23. Unable to hold. We look for a pullback towards 19.81. So that's 16. Below that, 16.31 on the downside. Overall on NSTG, going to be leading on the bullish neutral side today. We're going to be looking for a little bit of a curl off the lows. I think it's overdone at this point. Come on. There you go. So I'll be looking for a pull curl basing off the lows for a push back to the upside there. And then BCTX, guys, FDA fast track, which is usually BS. Had a little bit of a pop. I mean, it's a former runner, right? So one of those names that quickly typically pops, gives back its gains, looks like as well. And it's pretty much given it mostly back actually this morning. That should be up here. Looks like they're kind of trying to prop it back up after last day's pull. Well, I mean, that's clear. That's exactly what they're trying to do. I'm going to be leaning bearish on the name. Pivot 1082 levels able to hold 1143 to the 1247 level will be tested. unable to hold 1013 to 941. That level breaks. We see last day's low as well. Leaning bearish. I think it just caused a bunch of bank holders in the name. Probably get some further continuation to the downside because of that on the pullback below the pivot. All right, that is BCTX. That is NSTG. Let's take a screenshot of these two. Let's move on to the SPY and the FANG. Okay, guys, SPY and the FANG. There we go. 437.82 pivot to the downside today. This level is unable to hold. 434.79 to 431.59 will be tested. Able to hold 440.16 to 441.82 on the upside. Overall on the SPY. And it's like actually quickly, I just want to show you guys the daily chart. I forgot to do that. I always want to link this to that, and then we can actually look at both. Over on the SPY, what do we see? We see bearish confirmation below the 50 MA. That did confirm. Now, I think what we're going to see today is probably a retest of short-term EMA resistance on the upside, because it is extended to the downside at the moment. 437.82 pivot is able to hold. 440.16 to 441.82 is tested. That level breaks. 440.96 unable to hold. 434.79 to 431.59. Out the gate, going to be leaning bullish neutral. We'll see what happens on that retest, and then, you know, if we get rejected, we get rejected. We continue to sell off. But markets below all EMA support in the short and medium term. Obviously, downtrend is intact, and it looks heavy at the moment. There's no question in that regard. All right, let's take a look at Apple. Apple, same thing. Multi-day close below the 50 MA, which is bearish. We're giving us bearish confirmation. 168.30 pivot levels unable to hold, or sorry, able to hold. 170.39 will be tested to 172.43. Unable to hold 165.58 to 164.22. Going to be leaning bearish if the pivot's unable to hold today. I'll be leaning bearish neutral in the name at the moment. Basically, pivot's unable to hold. You get a rejection at the 50 MA on the daily, and likely to see continuation lower because of that. That is Apple. Just writing a note. Just for everybody in chat, I'm just going to write a note for all you guys. It's because, like, you know, I just don't want anyone to get screwed over by. All right, just an FYI. All right, I'm gonna actually throw this in the announcement sections too. Okay. Thanks for waiting there for a second. Okay, that's Apple. Let's take a look at Amazon here. 3041.79 pivot levels able to hold. We got room towards 3093 to 3124. Unable to hold, we look for pullback towards 2997 to 2951 on the downside. Overall on Amazon, leaning on the right now, bearish side, looking for continuation lower, trending to the downside, really been unable to bounce last couple of days. Any sort of bounce is met with rejection lately, and I don't see that changing until the trend does change. So, you know, lean bearish until then, in my opinion. Let's take a look at Netflix. So Netflix, obviously, you know, breaking the inverted head and shoulders to the downside. Which I don't know why that level's not labeled, but there it is. Okay. All right, pivot to the downside today, guys, on Netflix is going to be that 350 level. 349.71, able to hold. We got room back towards 362.01, unable to hold. We got 340.08 on the downside, and then 329.82 if that level does break. So a little bit of room for continuation. Overall on Netflix, I'm actually leaning bearish neutral as well. Looking for a continuation lower today. I think it's gonna be a grind lower. If it's unable to hold that pivot. Remember that pivot, guys, is the inverted head and shoulders on the daily. So if it does reclaim it, you can get a pretty decent bounce, but right now it looks bearish. Okay. Okay. All right, let's take a look at Facebook. Facebook breaking support, starting to look ugly on the daily, actually. There's misprint candles on this thing, which is super annoying. There we go. We got it labeled nicely. All right, 212.91 pivot levels able to hold. We're towards 217.60 to the 221.09. Unable to hold. 207.04 will be tested. Right now, leaning bearish, looking for continuation lower. If the pivot's unable to hold as well. I do think, guys, there's probably a decent probability the market is going to stay within its range today, but for now, we got to be leaning on the bearish side just because of what it looks like on the daily. So that's Facebook. Let's take a look at Google. Upside pivot 25.69 levels able to hold. 25.87 will be tested. That level breaks. 26.03 unable to hold. 25.46 to 25.30 on the downside will be tested. Overall on Google, going to be leaning on the bearish side as well today. Daily chart looks ugly and looks like it wants to pretty much pull into that $2,500 range on the downside. That's where it's got room to. All right, that's Google. All right, let's take a look at, last but not least, the Vix Cues and IWM. $23.53 pivot to the whoops. $23.53 pivot to the upside today. This level is able to hold on the VIX. You got room for continuation where it's 24.80 to 26.26. Unable to hold, we look for pullback towards the 21.85 to 20.54 on the downside. But what can we see on the daily? Bullish flagging or continuation higher. So we got to keep an eye on that. Let's take a look at the VIX. Sorry, let's take a look at the QQQs. QQQ guys, pivot to the downside today is going to be this level right here, 343.29 levels able to hold. Room towards 345.82, unable to hold 338.06 to 334.14 on the downside. Right now, it looks like we want to retest that head and shoulders on the downside, so I'll be leaning bearish. Looking for continuation lower. And last but not least, guys, IWM. Let's have a gander at that. As you do. $197.80 pivot level holds 199.52. 2 at 138 will be tested. Unable to hold 196.40 to 194.61 on the downside. Meaning bearish, looking for continuation lower. That is IWM. All right, so that's a SPY, that's a FANG. Those are the individual names that we're looking at today, guys. Gonna go ahead, pass it over to South Beach while I type up that pre-market action plan. Then we'll do a quick little recap for the open, and we'll be ready to go. South Beach, if you're ready, it's all yours.
Hey guys. All right, so there's no lack of volatility in these futures, huh? Right? Pretty amazing. What were they up 20 something back in the crapper here? You know, listen, I look at the first thing I do when I come in the morning is I hit up the S&Ps and all these different indexes. And the truth of the matter is they all look like the point of least resistance is on the downside, right? They all broke their 50-day moving average. They're all below all the moving averages that I look at on the daily and the weekly, whether it's the 10, the 17, the 50, the 100, they're below them all, okay? You look at the weekly, you're going to get a 1017 cross on the S&Ps. You look at the Qs, basically the chart is very similar, okay? The 10 and 17 are going to cross or have crossed in both cases, I misspoke. And the point of least resistance looks down. You look at the IWMs, more of the same. You look at the ARC index for, you know, I guess I look at that because it's, you know, a certain kind of high PE name. That chart looks like death. You look at the transports, pretty much the same, okay? The diamonds, the Dow, the same. They all look the same, okay? So to me, the point of least resistance is down, and that's why my cash level is around 95%, okay? Will I miss a move on the upside if things get better? Yeah, I will. Am I okay with that? Yeah, I'm okay with that. All right. So I think that's an interesting point. The second interesting point is, for the first time in a really long time, I think the Fed doesn't give a damn. In fact, I would go so far to say is they're kind of sort of happy that the market doesn't go up. I'm not saying they want the market to get smashed, but I'm saying they prefer, it would make their job easier if the market were to be flat to down some. And that reflects on the wealth effect. Okay, if people feel less wealthy, they're more inclined to spend less. And I think that's what they want while they catch up to being behind the curve. Okay, and so that's how I think the setup is. When I first come in the morning, that's what goes through my mind. All right, so now I go to the usual stuff I talk about. Okay, and let's look at bond market. Okay, which I look at it so carefully because it's the biggest competitor for stocks. And basically, it's unchanged pretty much across the board. The only thing I can reflect upon is that the spread between the 2 and the 10-year has widened substantially from where it was. Okay, and that is a pretty decent setup. Oh, I shouldn't say decent setup. It's a better setup for the banks. If rates go up and the curve widens, and you're in the business of borrowing short and lending long, your business model improves. Is it enough? Well, looking at Wells Fargo, JP Morgan's numbers, no, it's not. but we'll talk about the banks in a minute, Perry, okay? Looking at the yields overseas, we have London up 0.05 at 186. So that yield keeps, now is it new high? It's right around a new high. Germany's the same, but keep in mind, their 10-year in Germany is 0.80, okay? Which is effectively nothing, okay? It's zero, okay? Especially with inflation, it's actually a negative rate. So rates, albeit they're moving higher, they're, except for the US, I guess, it's not really significant at this point, okay? Let's look at commodities. So we have oil up another $1.50. Okay, it's now above the line in the sand, which is 100. And I would imagine the point of least resistance for oil is up. As long as it's above 100, I'm bullish. Okay, so natural gas again is up. Energy costs are going up, you know, make no mistake about it. All right, wheat and corn are less than a 1% move there to the downside. Lumber is down to 874, but by and large, agricultural commodities have been fairly consistently strong. Okay, currencies, you haven't had a whole lot of movement on that front. Mixed against North America, up against the yen, flattish against China, and the euro's the pig at 108 for now. Okay, and crypto's, you know, going to move with high PE tech, or it has. Bitcoin's up 1%, Ethereum's up 1%, Solana is up actually down 1%, and that's that. Let's look at the foreign markets quickly. And what do we have there? Okay, we have the FTSE flat, the DAX is down 1%, and Nikkei was up 2%, China's down a little bit, Hong Kong's flattish. Okay, so that's the backdrop. All right, banks and Fed. It's pretty clear, these numbers we get, PPI we got month over month 1.4 versus 1, year over year 11.2 versus 10.6. 11.2, guys, 11.2. That's crazy. The core number, which I think is the total BS number, if there ever was one. I mean, you take out food and energy. I mean, really? You take out food and energy? What is that, to fool the firemen? I don't understand. There's no fire in the house? It's a dumb number. It's really stupid. I don't even want to go over non-food and energy. Give me a break. It's really dumb. Okay, so that's that. China. Let's talk about China. China hates the US so much that they won't even use our vaccine, even though theirs doesn't work. I mean, think about that for a minute, right? Talk about suboptimal. It's really hilarious. And Russia's the next thing. You know, Russia's hurting us as much as we're hurting them. Make no mistake about it, okay? Because of the food situation with Ukraine, with energy, with all this other stuff. They have tools in their toolbox too. It's just not a one-sided affair. And now China and Russia are trying to develop weapons to knock out our satellites. What happens then? Let's say they develop a weapon to knock out our satellites. Do we consider that an act of war? As I see the world moving closer to WW3. It's not there yet, but I'm concerned. Okay, clearly they're still choosing up sides. Today, Sweden decided to join NATO. You can bet the other Baltic states will probably do the same. And they're doing it for their own protection. They see what's going on. They're not stupid. They don't have much of an army. And it's in their best interest. So clearly choosing up teams. All right, you have Russia, China, Iran. You know the cast of characters on the red team, and you know the teams on the blue team. I mean, this is no surprise. The problem is we need each other, and right now that's not happening, and costs are going up, and so on and so forth. So that's what we have. Crypto's kind of a sort of a sideshow right now. Oil we discussed, the virus. It's pretty nasty in Asia, but they'd rather have the virus. They'd rather have people die than to use our vaccine. That's really the reality, right? The dollar we discussed, Mr. Market yesterday, very spastic intraday moves until the end of the day where they went down in mass. And then you had that hard rally in the last 10 minutes, right? They were down what, like 35, 36 handles, something along those lines. And they closed, they got rid of half of that. Just like this morning, they were up what, 20 something when I walked in. I went to get some coffee. I came back, they were flat. It's crazy, the volatility. And it's very, very whippy. So you're not getting the follow through like you would get, or we have been getting, which makes trading a little, makes day trading much more difficult. Let's put it that way. Okay, so yesterday we had the Dow down, S&P down, even the transports went down. Okay, so what was strong? Big oil and E&P, fertilizer, retail, and on the short side you had basically high beta. Right, high PE tech, Bitcoin, FANG, China, EV, even drugs and banks were down yesterday. Okay, so that's the backdrop for yesterday. Here we are today. Let's see what we got today. Okay, all right. What's important? Delta had earnings. Ed Bastian, who's the GOAT of airline CEOs, or against the current crop anyway. Said demand's never, he used the word never. We've never seen stronger demand in the history of Delta Airlines, which is significant. Okay, so you got to think at leisure, leisure stocks, travel, whatever should be strong. Stuff when you spend on your home, stuff like that should be on the weaker side of the balance, because the number's finite that you can spend. If you're going to spend it on travel, you're not going to spend it on your house. So I think that's interesting. What else? Sweden we discussed, the PPI we discussed. So numbers, we had good numbers in Delta and FAST, right? ATRS got taken over, SRRA got taken over, BCTX had positive news. Peloton, here's the inactivists not liking the fact that they brought in a CEO. Of course they're not happy, okay? They were looking to buy the stock, get it taken over, get out of their position and reallocate the money. This guy's going to be at the helm for years. So the money, all of a sudden, they have to play the I have to sit and wait concept. Well, you know what? They don't own enough stock to change the narrative, in my opinion. And unless they can get someone to bid for the company hostilely, they certainly can't. So Ed Bastian, yeah, Spiro. I'm not surprised by the Peloton news, and I don't think it's trade worthy. Let's put it that way. Okay, so that's that. Walmart hired PayPal CEO, which is a real positive for Walmart because they usually stay in the company. So analysts are positive on that. It clearly is a negative for PayPal. Does this mean they're going to miss their numbers? It might. It also might mean he got more money. So it's hard to reach that conclusion. I think PayPal is, clearly gotten smashed. When I go through the charts in the morning, guys, I'm really amazed at how much a lot of these stocks have come down. I was looking at AMAT this morning to pick one. AMAT is, this is a fantastic company, all right? Stock's down 30, every one of these companies is down around 30%. I look at Netflix, it's down around 30%, maybe a little more. This one's down 50%. Okay, but like the really good ones that are in the wrong sectors are down about a third. The ones that are doing a little worse are down anywhere from 30 to 70%. So there's been real wealth destruction, but I think it could get worse from here, okay, before it gets better. We'll see, okay? So that's that. On the short side today, we had JP Morgan's numbers. It's dragging the bank stocks down with it. Since this is the best run bank, you would think that the others will be, poor as well. Okay, so that's something we have to consider. All right, so you wait for them to come, and then I think, I kind of sort of like the group. Sorry, that's my thing here. I kind of sort of like the group because the spread is widening, but this is going to give us an opportunity to buy cheap call spreads and stuff like that. So sit back, wait, and enjoy. BBBY is no different. If the stock doesn't get really smashed today, I'm thinking that this Ryan Cohn is adding to his position. So let's see how it acts. I'm not going to do anything out of the gate. All right, I want to see what he does, how this, like you would you know, the bigger the volume, the more inclined I am to think he's going to be involved. So let's see how it trades. Okay, let's just watch it for a bit, and then we could do something. All right, because I don't think he's going to sit by idly and let his investment go into the tank. I think he'll probably do something. All right, so that's that. Anything else here? No. So that's, I think I hit everything there. Okay, syndicate, you got a few deals, all crappy companies. Maybe this EE is not crappy though. 13 million and 24. The indication was 21, 24. A Lehman deal. That one's okay. You got 3 secondaries and stocks I never heard of. So who gives a damn about that? Okay. So you have all these guys on TV. You had Scott Minard from Guggenheim, who's a pretty smart guy. And he thinks he likes the market over the next 12 months. He says, you know, when they start raising rates, the market generally stays good for 12 months. Maybe he's right, maybe he's not. He liked PayPal, Square, and Micron as investments. He thinks the market's climbing the wall and worry, which is bullish. He thinks that 2 years before the next recession. Okay. Then Gunlack was on. He thinks inflation has peaked. So it probably has. But that being said, it's not back in the bottle. We're like 3 million jobs light, right? So we have employment inflation, you have energy inflation, but the rate of inflation, I think, is what he's talking about. And so, of course, that's peaked, but we'll see what happens. He said one thing that I thought was interesting. Oh, he said the US market is way overvalued. And he thinks we should get rid of the Fed, which is an interesting concept. He thinks everything should be traded off the 2-year. And if you look at the 2-year on the bond market and the projection, you know, how that's moved, you could say to yourself, you're right. What the hell do we need these guys for? Just change change direction based on the 2-year. It's you know, I haven't heard anybody say it other than him, but it's certainly, if you look at the movement of the 2-year, it makes a whole lot of sense. Just do it, you know, based on AI. That's another thing that happened. Then you had Dan Niles on last day, and he's been dead right. So let's see what he said. He thinks inflation is running super hot. Fed way behind the curve. You can't fight the Fed and you can't fight the fundamentals, and earnings are going down because increasing costs, both employment, energy, etc. And his philosophy is to trade it by the oversold. So when they get to not oversold, he shorts them. When they get to oversold, he covers his shorts and gets long. I don't think that's so dumb. Okay, I think that's actually what's been working. So kudos to him. Okay, so that is that. Let me see if I missed anything as far as any of these guys that spoke. The Minard says we will have a recession. Like I said, 2 years out. And Jamie Dimon is saying today, what did he say? He said basically, I'm going to get the wording right, so I don't like to put words in his mouth. Inflation in Ukraine, powerful forces that threaten the economy. I am not predicting a recession, but it wouldn't surprise him. Okay, so that's not, and he was positive in the short run, which is not exactly what you want to hear from a guy who's been bullish on the US economy for as long as I can remember. Okay, so he's really pulled back his bullishness for sure. I think there's a lot of obstacles, okay, but as far as trading is concerned, I think it's really choppy, and I think you got to be, and I think one day to the next, there's very little follow through. Okay, so you know, accepting, you know, energy and, you know, that whole concept of a super cycle in commodities, that's really the only thing that's really working. Okay, as you know, a follow-through trade. Everything else is super choppy. Semis one day look like crap. The point of least resistance is down, but you get those hard moves up. So it's a little bit on the spastic side. So you just got to be super careful. And until the trading gets to where we want it, where we can knock the cover off the ball, I think you just reduce your size. and you try to be a soldier. You got to protect your capital. Okay, you can't trade the same way in a challenging market as you do in a great market. In a great market, you ramp up that size as fast as you can. In a crappy market, you take down that size. Okay, so that if you do lose, you're going to lose a lot less. And when you make, you're going to make a lot more. Okay, so that's the way it's got to be. So to recap, I'm going to watch this Bed Bath & Beyond today. I want to see how these banks act. We have more banks coming. And I think that traders are going to think, well, if JP Morgan couldn't do it, how are these other jokers going to do it? So I think people are not going to, they're not going to rally these stocks today unless JP Morgan rallies, which you never know. Okay, so that's where my head's at. Let's see how it goes. That's a lot of stuff in one morning. And other than that, I mean, I think you just got to pick your spots. And when I'm doing something on the long side, I try to protect it with options, whether I'm selling calls against it or something along those lines, just to give me a little cushion. All right, and that's it. So I'm out of time. I'm going to give it to Spartan, and let's have a good day, guys. It's all yours, my man.
All righty. Thank you, South Beach guys. Morning. What's going on? Let's do a quick little recap of what we talked about this morning. So if you guys are watching the YouTube stream, everything's posted. I'm going to pause it so you can, or not pause it, but I'm just going to scroll up and you can pause it so you can read this stuff. But here's a pre-market action plan. Obviously, you can see all the charts posted as well. And then the same thing on the option side. All right, let's take a look at what we got going on today. Couple different things. Tesla, Epam, NVIDIA all gapping down now. And so with the market and the Delta earnings miss, EPS and Rev beat, year-over-year growth 125.3%, Q2 guidance raised, stocks gapping up. NSTG, names gapping down after the company cut its Q1 product and service revenue guidance. And then BCTX, BriaCell receives FDA fast track approval for targeted, I think breast cancer it is. And that's obviously some, FDA fast tracks for BS for the most part. All right, let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint. Intraday, first two the names that we're looking at, guys, Tesla and Epam. So let's have a look at those. So Tesla obviously gapping down. Pivot to the downside or upside today, 990.28 levels able to hold 1003 to 1022, unable to hold 977 and 962 on the downside. Overall on Tesla leaning bullish, neutral, looking for a continuation push higher today. Epam, let's take a look at that. Pivot to the upside today, 301.33 levels able to hold. Room towards 312.41 to 323.01. Unable to hold 291.38 to 286.08 on the downside. Overall on Epam, going to be leading bullish, neutral, looking for a reclaim of that pivot push to the upside today if it can get above it. Let's take a look at NVIDIA. Let's take a look at Delta. NVIDIA 216.80 pivot levels able to hold. 219.96 to 226.01 will be tested. Unable to hold 214.35 to 211.53 on the downside will be tested. Overall on NVIDIA, going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side today. Delta pivot upside is going to be the 40.29 spot. Level holds 41.38 to 42.57 will be tested. Unable to hold 39.11 to 38.10 on the downside. Overall, Delta leaning bullish, neutral, looking for a hold of the pivot, continuation push higher today. NSTG and BCTX. NSTG 2301 pivot level holds 26.43 to 29.23 will be tested. Unable to hold 1981 to that 16.34 on the downside, or 16.37, sorry. Overall, going to be leaning bullish, but looking for a pull curl and basing to take the name long. BCTX 1082, sorry, pivot level holds 11.43 to 12.47 will be tested. Unable to hold 10.13 to 9.41, leaning bearish, looking for a pop topping. I think, BS news. I think there's a lot of pumpers on it. And I do think that because the last day's pull, there's probably some bag holders in it as well, right? All right, let's take a look at the spine of the fang here. Market. Pivot to the upside today. Or 37.82. I should say downside today. This level is unable to hold. Room lower into the 434.79 support. Breaks. You see the 431.59 tested. Pivot holds. Room higher into the 440.16 resistance. Breaks. We see the 441.82 tested. All right, so I'm leaning bull, so the gate and looking for rejection. Basically, I want to see a pop to the upside into the 50 MA, and then we can see what happens there. So retested that 50. Apple pivot upside today is going to be 168.30. Levels able to hold 170.39. Unable to hold 165. 58 to 164.22 will be tested. Leaning bearish on that. Bearish neutral, I should say. Let's take a look at Amazon. Pivot to the downside today is going to be the 30.41 levels unable to hold 29.97, 29.51, able to hold 30.93 to 31.24. Leaning bearish on that as well. Let's take a look at Netflix. Pivot to the downside today, 349.71 levels unable to hold 340 will be tested. Able to hold 362 on the upside, leaning bearish on that. Let's take a look at Facebook. 212.91 pivot level holds 217.60 to 221.09 will be tested. Unable to hold 207.94, leaning bearish on that. Last but not least, Google. Pivot 25.69. Unable to hold 25.46 to 25.30 will be tested. Able to hold 25.87 to 26.03, leaning bearish neutral on that as well. So that is Google. All right, let's take a look at the Qs. Sorry, let's take a look at the Vix Cues and IWM. Vix first always. Vix pivot 23.53 level holds 24.80 to 26.26. Unable to hold 21.85, 20.54. Watch that 24.80, guys. That's pretty much where the 50 EMA is on the daily. So if that level gets reclaimed, Vix does tend to move pretty big to the upside. But at the moment, it is obviously below it. So pay attention to that level today. That's all I'm saying. On that, so let's take a look at the Qs. Pivot to the upside today, 342.30. Levels able to hold 345.82. Unable to hold 333, 33.80. 338 to 334 on the downside, leaning bearish on the Qs. And IWM, last but not least, 197.80. Levels unable to hold 196.40. That level breaks. 194.61. Able to hold 199.52 to 201.38 on the upside. Anyways, guys, that's the SPY, the thing, the individual names that we're looking at today. If you guys are watching the YouTube stream, don't already know, we have a part of the Discord's free, just kind of like a general chat type of deal. We do some SPY guidance in there as well. You can click that, pop into Discord. It's in the description, I would believe, in the YouTube. Otherwise, if you want access to the stream, then you can go to spartantrading.com and sign up there. Otherwise, thanks for watching, guys. We do the streams every single week, and we'll see you next.